Well, I think of history as this prison. I mean, I would go with Stephen Dedalus, who said history is the nightmare from which I'm trying to awaken. The dissolving of the prison of Gnostic confinement was an act of contact with the higher hidden order of things behind appearances. I mean, that was the Gnostic epiphany. And I would say if history is the prison, then the psychedelic experience is the epiphany of dissolution that frees. And then you see eternity. You see the Platonic, time as the moving image of eternity. The mystery is revealed. That's this whole thing about how a shaman is somebody who has seen the end. That's all. And that's what confers this wisdom, is having seen the end. It's kind of ultimate experience. And then you take your place. You go back to your group and take your place and perform your function. Well, Freud had this concept that he called the superego. And this term has somewhat fallen out of use, and because we all tend to be a little more Jungian than that, and we talk about the collective unconscious. But in a way, though I'm more sympathetic to Jung, I like the phrase superego, because the phrase collective unconscious is a kind of blah concept. It's like a data bank, a repository, where superego seems to imply organization, intelligence, focus, awareness. And what seems to emerge from these psychedelic experiences is that where we expected disorder or the absence of organization, we find order, and we find mindedness. The superego seems to be everywhere. So in a way, it is like that. It is that you're becoming more informed, but it diminishes your personal importance, the physical atom of your body. I mean, we believe, and it may be true, but the question is, how important is it, that we are each unique, and that somehow in this uniqueness is our worth, and that if something were to happen to you, we can't replace you with me, and you can't stand in for me. But, back off to where you're looking at a scale of 1,000 years of this stuff, and you see that each one of us actually is expendable, and that the general processes in which we are embedded are so large that it probably doesn't matter who you are. And I could have been you, and you could have been me. Well, then, once you've got that nailed down, being becomes a whole different project. Being is something out there that you do. You garden well, you bear and raise children, you feed people, you build objects. It becomes something outside of yourself rather than something interiorized. And I think, thousands and thousands of generations of people were born and lived and went into the ground with this kind of a psychology. And we are all imprisoned by our cultural expectations to such a degree that the real problem is to make ourselves realize how blind we are, how much what we've been taught, the words we use, the expectations we have, hem us in. And the psychedelics show that cultural relativism, not as an exercise, not as something that you're convinced of by rational argument, but that you just see it immediately. So much of culture is complex behavior, And I think that what the psychedelics show that is a secret that some people don't want told is that we can redesign our behavior. We can change very, very quickly. The image of ourselves as somehow the rigid inheritors of evolutionary programming and therefore doomed like lemmings or monarch butterflies to enact a programmed pattern of behavior and destroy ourselves isn't what I see happening at all. The whole history of humanness is a history of unexpected adaptive response to unusual circumstances. And I believe that's because the imagination has played such an important role in defining who and what we are. And whatever the imagination is, psychedelics catalyze it. Psychedelics enhance it. The thin bandwidth of interior self-monitoring that goes on in normal consciousness becomes much more clear, three-dimensional, and intensified under the influence of psychedelics. If, these things used to be called consciousness-expanding drugs. It was just a good old phenomenological description. Well, consciousness, or the absence of it, is what is pushing our species toward some kind of crack-up. So if there are factors in the rainforests, in the Arctic tundra, in the toolkits of pre-literate and Aboriginal people that can act to transform consciousness, then this is where we have to put our attention. If we could feel the consequences of what we are doing, we would stop doing it. The reason we don't stop is because we are partially anesthetized to the consequences of untrammeled population growth, unregulated capitalist market-oriented behaviors, so forth and so on. We are semi-conscious. This is our problem. We're like someone half awake inside a burning building. Are we going to suffocate and become a crispy critter, or are we going to sufficiently integrate the situation to grope our way to an entrance and call 911? In our case, I don't know who comes when you call 911, but it's something like that. Well, it's in a sense, the bottom line of this, from a feeling and a heart place, is that what's being said here is reclaim experience. Do not dwell in the mistakes of the past. Do not lose yourself in the castles of the future. And do not give your authenticity away to experts, gurus, government commissions, bosses, wives, mates. Take back your mind and your body and begin to engage with the fact that you are alive, you are going to die. Nobody knows what being alive is. Nobody knows what dying is. You're involved in a mysterious engagement where every living moment presents you with mystery, opportunity, and wonder. There is no mundane dimension, really. If you have the eyes to see it, it's all transcendental. And every object, a leaf, a bird, a pebble, everything leads back to the basic questions. Everything is the stone. I mean, the stone is present. It's a matter of you being present for the stone.